Unit 2, Lesson 3, Inventions. Unit 2, Lesson 3, Vocabulary. Before the Industrial Revolution, spinners and weavers made clothing at home primarily by hand. Cotton that was spun into thread and then woven into cloth. Later, the cloth was dyed by an artisan. This type of system was known as the cottage industry or domestic system, and it was very low and laborious. The old ways of making clothes and cloth in general were completely transformed with industrialization, beginning with the flying shuttle invented by John Kay and the spinning jenny by James Hargreaves. Richard Arkwright's water frame and then Samuel Crompton's spinning mule transformed the way Britain and the world manufactured cloth, and with cloth, how they manufactured clothes for the emerging populations throughout the world. The image you see is a rough drawing of John Kay and his flying shuttle invention. This was a hand-operated device that helped to weave the cloth more quickly than doing it without the flying shuttle. Other notable inventions in the textile industry were the spinning jenny, invented by James Hargreaves. This allowed one person to spin between 16 and 24 threads at once. Richard Arkwright's water frame allowed the production of thread from spool cotton faster and was a water-powered spinner, so it reduced the need for human labor. Samuel Crompton's spinning mule took the work of Richard Arkwright and his water frame and multiplied it so that 1 to 3 individuals were all that was needed to produce tens of thousands of bobbins of thread per day. The most important aspect of the Industrial Revolution concerning inventions is that necessity was the mother of all inventions. Spinning machines created a need to speed up weaving, and so the power loom was created. Power loom created an increased demand for raw cotton to help manufacture more textiles, and thus we have the invention of the cotton gin. The cotton gin reveals a need or a demand for stronger forms of iron, so we have improvements in the iron smelting and the development of steel through the Bessemer process. As more steam-powered machines were built, factories needed more coal to create the steam, so mining methods were improved to meet the demand for coal. The process of inventing never ends because one invention begets more inventions. One invention inevitably leads to improvements upon itself and to more further refinements throughout history. One prime example is our cell phones. The modern cell phone, we know it's ubiquitous with teenagers, obviously, throughout the world, but it began as a necessity for business individuals to be able to be reached anywhere and to have fast communications for business dealings. Now, children as young as 5 or 6 have cell phones with them every day. Birth and growth of the textile industry, one of the first major inventions of the Industrial Revolution, beginning all the way with John Kay and his flying shuttle, through James Hargreaves and his spinning jenny, to Richard Arkwright and his water frame, which was improved upon by Samuel Crompton and his spinning mule in 1779, and Edward Cartwright and his power loom in 1785. This water-powered device that automatically and quickly wove thread into cloth. Eli Whitney in America and his cotton gin of 1793, this device that helped separate raw cotton from the cotton seeds, increasing the cotton supply while lowering the cost of the raw material. And finally, Elias Howe in 1846 invents a sewing machine, and the speed of sewing greatly increases. James Watt, a Scottish immigrant, improved on Newcomen's steam engine to power machinery. And by 1800, steam engines were replacing water wheels as sources of power for factories. Factories were soon relocated near raw materials, workers, and ports. Cities eventually grew around the factories built near central England's coal and iron mines. Robert Fulton invented the steamboat in 1807, called the Clermont, and operated the first regular steamboat route running between Albany and New York City. In 1838, the Great Western, the first ship to sail across the Atlantic Ocean on steam power alone, completed the trip in only 15 days. In the 1830s, Stephenson's rocket train traveled the 40 miles between Liverpool and Manchester in only 90 minutes, or 1.5 hours. Between 1830 and 1870, railroad tracks went from 49 miles throughout England to over 15,000 miles, as steel rails were more valuable and reliable, and they replaced the old iron rails of the system. In 1869, Westinghouse's air brake made train travel much safer when allowed for greater train travel and comfort. As heavier train cars could ride on the new steel rails, this helped improve roadbeds, and with improved sleeping cars, train travel became a destination in and of itself for many wealthy English citizens. Even before the development of the automobile, macadamized roads were invented by Thomas Telford and John Macadam. This was an improvement over dirt and gravel roads, which were, well, let's just say, not exactly the best roads in inclement weather, and England is known to be quite wet. Macadamized roads created a smooth, hard surface that supported heavy loads without requiring a thick roadbed. In fact, modern asphalt roads are a type of macadamized roads with tar added to limit the creation of dust. This helps lead to a transportation revolution with the invention of the steamboat, which sped up water transportation, and macadamized roads, which helped improve roads for civilian travel. The locomotive became a method for fast land transportation of both people and goods. And then with the German contributions of the gasoline engine, lead to the invention of the automobile in the late 1880s. And the diesel engine, which by Rudolf Diesel, allows for the cheaper use of raw materials. Orville and Wilbur Wright in America invent the airplane in 1903, allowing for air transportation of people and goods. Before the Industrial Revolution, canal barges were often pulled by mules along the sides, and ships were powered by sails out in the open seas, with horse-drawn wagons, carts, and carriages providing most of the land transportation. But after the Industrial Revolution, we had trains and steamships, trolleys and automobiles. This increased production and led to a search for more markets and raw materials with these better and faster means of transportation. We'll conclude today with talking about communications revolutions and the various communication inventions that helped spur the revolutions. In America, Samuel Morse invented the telegraph in 1844. This led to rapid communication across continents. Also in America, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876, the first time human speech was heard across great distances, even continents. Another American, Cyrus W. Field, laid the Atlantic cable. This was where the United States and Europe were connected by a telecommunications cable carrying messages. An Italian immigrant, Marconi, invented the wireless telegraph, an early form of the radio, in 1895, where no wires were needed for sending and receiving messages. In 1907, Le de Forest invents the radio tube, and radio broadcasts can now be sent around the world. And lastly, Vladimir Zworykin in 1925 invents the telephone, simultaneous audio and visual broadcasts, less than 100 years ago.